All right, let's turn to the team up north, Michigan, taking on Minnesota at the barn tonight. Wolverines winning 90-75. Hey, by the way, we've got Fran McCaffrey, the head coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes, coming up on tonight's show. So if you're a Big Ten follower, this show tonight is for you. The Big Ten has gotten off to such a strong start to the year, and the Hawkeyes bounce back tonight by rolling past the Cyclones without Chris Murray. How'd they do it? That is coming up here on After Dark. We're presented by Bet Rivers. Head to fieldthe68.shop, fieldthe68.shop. Check out our merchandise. Check out all those shirts. I know Mac is going to do some shopping. Goodman gets like 8%. You can start to help him out with that $460 card game tab that you talked about on show one. Michigan wins 90-75 tonight. Randolph, they now have life without Jalen Llewellyn, who's out for the season, the transfer guard from Princeton. A lot of high hopes. So it's Kobe Buffkin, it's Dug McDaniel had a big night, Jed Howard and company. I guess the question I have for you is, the Michigan Wolverines, they've had a bit of an up and down start to the season. How good do you think they can still be?
I thought little Dougie played well tonight, man. Dougie stepped up and played really, really well, right? Can he keep that up, man? He's a blur. He's a small guard, but he's a blur. I mean, he's a tough guard to handle. I mean, what's different about him is he has elite speed. You just don't run up on him. Like, you're going to have to play him a certain way. There's not a lot of guys in college basketball that can cover as much ground as he can. So that's a different element. He's not a great shooter, but they got a dominant guy. When you got a dude, you can go somewhere. When you got guys like Hunter Dickinson, you can play through that can just change the game. He's a great passer. Tough to guard one-on-one. They got enough guys with Jet making shots. I mean, they can be a problem. Now, you lose a battle like that, there's depth. There's depth issues you got to worry about. The injury bug is real. But they're right there. All these teams, everybody we've seen has flaws. There's only like 2 or 3 teams that we've seen right now. We're like, man, this team looks to be just really, really good. But all of them have flaws, and we've seen some of Michigan's in a sense of being inconsistent. But again, who hasn't been that way this early right now? That's part of what we're saying. We can nitpick every roster in every situation.
Right. Any feelings on Michigan, Chris, from what you've seen?
Well, I just think if you have a kid like Hunter Dickinson,
right,
and you surround him by some guys like tonight, they go 10 for 18 from the 3-point line. They're going to give anybody a game they play. Anybody.
Yep.
Because, like, Hunter isn't that kid that can only roll to the rim and finishes around the basket. You can post him up. He can pass out of a double team. For a while, you saw Minnesota really blitzing and hard hedging the ball screens, and they were short rolling him. And so now he's maybe making the hockey assist, spraying it. I mean, like, we recruited Hunter out of DeMatha High School. We have Mike Pegues on my staff, who's now at Butler, DeMatha guy. We were in Hunter's living room, and we watched him play a whole lot. And I'm going to tell you, he can really pass.
Yes.
He can almost when he was in high school to a fault. It's like, if nobody's doubling you, you got to score the thing. And he's learned that. And obviously he's gotten better and better. But if they shoot the ball the way they did tonight, Hunter's a very difficult matchup for anybody in the country. 7'1", he can score it. And when you double, he can pass it. And like he said, Dug McDaniel is also from DC. He's a blur. He is a blur. So I know losing Llewellyn hurt them, but I also don't think that they're a lost team by any means. I think that they can continue to get better and, be a tournament team.
It's interesting because the net rankings come out, and it's early because analytics always have certain things that are just skewed this soon into the season, like you guys brought up at the top of the show. But the Big Ten had 7 of the top 30 teams in the net rankings. In other words, because they're going to be playing each other for the next couple months, they've set themselves up to get at least 7 teams, perhaps 8, perhaps 9 teams into the NCAA tournament. You think about this league right now. Illinois comes back and beats Texas. Purdue could be argued as the best team in the country. Indiana has just 1 loss. It came at Rutgers. You both just said you think Rutgers is really, really tough. There's no shame in that. Indiana will meet Arizona Saturday night. My question to you, Randolph Childress, is, We've seen the Big Ten have the strong start to the season. Do you believe that this version of the Big Ten, that these versions of these teams are going to actually do damage when it matters most?
They're very well capable of doing that. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like, I know, I guess Boeheim's comment about the tournament and when coaching wise, and Chris, this, everybody's in their league everybody thinks their league's the best. If you're in the Big 12, you think that league's the best. If you're in the Big 10, ACC has history on their side. So they're always going to be like, it was a down year a year ago, and everybody's going to be like, I told you so. Like we came back at the very end. I told you so. But the Big Ten is loaded. It's going to be a difficult task for everyone there, and it's a gauntlet. And no one expected. Rutgers wasn't one of those teams that we talked about being the top 16, and I don't know if anybody wants to play that team. They sure as hell don't want to go there. So it's going to be a tough battle night in night out, and they're going to beat each other up. And I think they're going to get upwards to seven, 8 teams in the tournament.
Is there something to be said? Go ahead.
No, I just think that becomes a really fun narrative for fans and people to talk about, like how the Big Ten isn't built for the NCAA tournament. I just think it's all hogwash. And this is from a guy who's never been in the Big Ten. It's just certainly, okay, you look at results and their teams lost earlier last year, but who's to say that doesn't change this coming year? Like the tournament, I mean, a shot here, a shot there. I mean, like if the kid Holden misses that shot tonight, Rutgers wins. I mean, that's what happens in the NCAA tournament.
Yep.
And so I'm not a big believer in the Big Ten not being built for the NCAA tournament. Maybe they don't have recent history on their side, but I think that's always ready to go out the door at any moment in any tournament.
Brad Underwood said this during the summer in a conversation. He said, the key to winning in the tournament is to just keep getting in the tournament because that's the way it's set up. The year that you least expect it, you're going to go on that run. The year that you think that you've got every piece and part is when you have that off day on a Thursday or Friday at noon. Like that's also the system of it. And that's this sport. Is there something to be said, Chris, if it's not the type of thing where you're not buying it, and I'm with you, there's talented teams that on any given day could lose a game, that January, February, and then into your conference tournament, there's something to be said about league play being a war, and then it can take a toll on a team.
I believe that. I absolutely believe that. I mean, think, the amount of conference games that we're playing now is crazy. You're talking about 20 conference games and, like Chris mentioned before, playing conference games in December. And these are hard fought Big Ten, a lot of half court grinded slugfest type games. And so you are beat up a little bit, but then I think that, the other part of that is you get into the tournament and you start to face teams that don't play like that. That get up and down a little bit more, that play with a little bit more finesse and skill. And, maybe there's something to be said for that. But certainly I do think the grind of a season, can wear on teams as they get closer to the NCAA tournament, for sure.
Chris, let me ask you this while you're here, too. From someone that was doing the scheduling, like, what do you feel like that from, like in the ACC? We had a 20-game schedule, right? Then you had an MTE. You had the ACC Big Ten Challenge. So you essentially had 23, 24 conference games. How did you feel about preparing your out-of-conference schedule, your bye games or whatever you want to call it?
Well, I think it first of all depended on what type of team you felt like.
So you changed it pretty much every year depending on your
coming back. But, Randolph, I'll tell you, like, your schedule's almost filled out for you nowadays.
Yeah.
Like, if you're at Louisville, you were playing, Kentucky every year, period. Right. You were playing in the, Big Ten ACC Challenge every year. You were always in some exempt event that you didn't really control your opponents, so all of a sudden, and when I got to Louisville, there was a 4-year contract with Western Kentucky on the books. And so we didn't have a whole lot of freedom. It was like we were trying to schedule maybe one home and away with a high major. And then we were trying to schedule some guarantee games strategically with the dates and when we were returning from tournaments and things of that nature. So I think the flexibility that coaches have nowadays is very different from what it used to look like.